This is one odd detail from the Beijing International Auto Show between April 25th and May 4th, 2024. Black uniformed staff members walked around with black umbrellas. They are said to prevent the public and the media from filming should citizens attend to protest poor quality vehicles. Perhaps this is unique to Chinese auto shows. So what else was there to see at the Beijing Auto Show 2024? The big star of the show, Lei Juin, chairman of Xiaomi Group, expressed his opinion that he felt desperate after looking around. He believes that the vicious competition in the Chinese auto industry is homogenized, with too many similar products. He said, "You aren't making products, you're scamming."
你去每家车厂看，他们都做了一系列的车，好的车有几辆就行了，干嘛需要那么多同质化的车呢？所以我认为车圈的卷是在同质化卷。我走访完以后，我挺绝望的。我说你们这哪是做产品啊？你们这不就是靠蒙吗？
We'll start with Xiaomi's EV manufacturing, and in the second half of the episode, we'll look at why this huge industry in China is about to face a major crisis. Founded in 2010 in Beijing, Xiaomi Group is a mobile internet company engaged in the research and development of smart hardware and electronic products, as well as the construction of a smart home ecosystem. It's the fourth cell phone company with self-developed mobile chips after Apple, Samsung, and Huawei. It has built the world's largest consumer Internet of Things platform, connecting more than 252 million smart devices. Xiaomi's attempts to develop its own chips haven't been successful, but its global expansion is growing rapidly. The main markets are in India, Southeast Asia, and Europe. When the U.S. Department of Defense made a sanctions list in January 2021, 9 Chinese companies, mainly in the semiconductor and aerospace industries, were on the list, and cell phone maker Xiaomi Group was also listed. This means that Xiaomi has the Chinese military behind it. In China's EV manufacturing boom, Xiaomi has also crossed the board to build cars. Lei Juin, the chairman, has vowed to become one of the top 5 car makers in the world.
随着这个新一代的 AI 技术大模型的诞生，怎么能够把大模型技术能够跟新能源汽车能够整合在一起？所以我觉得整个中国的新能源汽车都处于快速演进的阶段。
Regarding his comment of feeling hopeless about the Chinese automotive industry, many analysts believe that his words match his behavior and the interests of the companies behind him. Of course, the phenomena he describes and the problems he sees are real. Having said that, Xiaomi isn't better than other Chinese EV brands when it comes to professional ethics. In March 2024, Xiaomi's first electric car, the Xiaomi SU7, was officially launched. The official media in China vigorously promoted the Xiaomi SU7, and the market was hot. According to the data released by Xiaomi Auto, 88,898 units of Xiaomi SU7s were ordered within 24 hours of its launch. However, if you take a closer look, aren't the Xiaomi SU7 and the Porsche Taycan 4S extremely similar in appearance? The SU7 not only has the same appearance as the Porsche Taycan, but also the shape of the key and the way to change the battery are almost the same. As a result, many netizens have expressed their doubts, leaving comments like, "A company that plagiarizes is accusing others of making the same products." The main reason the Xiaomi SUV7 is selling so well is because it has a cool look, just like the Porsche. The other car companies don't dare to make their cars look the same as Porsches because they will be mocked by the whole country if they just copy 70% of the looks of a $1 million luxury car. But times have changed, and now car makers aren't afraid to look identical to Porsches. They are afraid of not looking identical enough. For any self-respecting company, being accused of plagiarism is bad, but the problem is that Xiaomi doesn't seem to think there's anything wrong with being accused of plagiarism or suspected of plagiarism. It seems to think that as long as consumers like it, there's nothing wrong with it. You're just copying others, you don't have innovation of your own. That's why you'll never be able to compete with others. There are institutional reasons for this, and there is also a cultural reason. The CCP has ruined the traditional Chinese culture for so many years that many Chinese no longer have a sense of pride or shame. It becomes bad money drives out good money. Plagiarism has a long history in China's EV industry. The most recognizable brand in the early days was Zati Auto. It produced the hit T600 after imitating the Volkswagen Touareg and Audi Q5, which were hot sellers in the Chinese market. After the product sold well, Zati Motors, which had gotten a taste of the sweetness, was determined to copycat all the way. So, in 2017, one of the Zati Motors' most successful models, the Zati SR9, came out of nowhere. It said that even Porsche's president was amazed. Look, the Zati SR9 with its cool Porsche Macan look quickly became a huge success in the Chinese auto market. The only thing that the Zati SR9 can't match the Macan with is its powertrain. At that time, the SR9 was also preparing to launch an EV model, which made the foreign media worry that if Porsche wanted to launch an EV Macan at that time, it might get accused of plagiarism. To satisfy their vanity, some Chinese car owners would spend a few hundred yuan to modify the Zati SR9, replacing it with Porsche kits. The modified appearance looks the same as the Porsche Macan. Many people can't afford a real Porsche, so they buy a fake Porsche to drive around. Running on the highway at such a high speed, who knows whether it's a real Porsche or a fake one? That will satisfy some people's vanity. If you go to Europe or to a Western country, you will probably be sued for this kind of thing. So the question is, why doesn't Porsche sue Chinese car makers in court for design infringement? If Xiaomi is sued by Porsche for copyright infringement, it's possible that Porsche will win the case. Even if Porsche wins the case, it's like Porsche is helping Xiaomi with a free advertising campaign. There was a case like this some years ago when BYD copied a Lexus S6, which without the BYD logo would have been a Lexus model that costs $1 million. But with the logo on it, it was a BYD SUV that cost about $100,000 and plus. But Lexus didn't sue BYD. The car blogger also said that the Xiaomi SU7 has no real technology. Its motor is a combination of electronic and Innovance, and the battery is from CATL and BYD, and the pneumatic suspension parts are from Tuapuo. In this industry, Xiaomi actually plays the role of a product manager. This blogger believes that for any automaker, one must always have a little bit of one's core technology. But for Xiaomi, even the core chip in its EVs is from Qualcomm, and its smart driving assistant chips is from NVIDIA. So the blogger warned, don't get too happy too early. More than half of the users who have bought Xiaomi SU7 may regret it in the end. This is true.
小米速7要刚提的车，发现有异响，这边就没有，看，这边就有。
On May 6, Mr. Wen from Xiamen, Fujian Province, posted a video on social media platforms saying that the new Xiaomi SU7 car he purchased had just broken down on the highway after leaving the 4S store. The car had a mileage of 39 kilometers and had to be towed back to the dealership. The screen inside the car showed a message. The vehicle is about to shut down. Please safely pull over and contact the online service center. The camera pans and the text warns again. Driving system malfunction, unable to shift gears.
刚提的小米了，就车速就高嘛了。车没办法启动，开着高速上就断电。没办法。系统故障，驱动的系统故障。刚开的，刚提的，才开39公里啊。
Later, Mr. Wen changed his online name to the most unlucky Xiaomi SU7 owner on social media platforms. He said, after sales services refused to repair the car, refused to replace the car. To replace the car requires a rescheduling of the production. But I want to replace the car, not to return the car. Now the car is still parked in the delivery center. On May 7th, Xiaomi's customer service responded to the inquiry of a journalist, saying they negotiated with Mr. Wen for a refund. The incident has sparked concerns about the quality of Xiaomi's EVs. I was almost defrauded of more than 200,000 yuan by Xiaomi. I almost couldn't help but place an order last night. A layman sees the excitement, an expert sees the trick. Today, let's take a look at it from an insider's perspective. Is the Xiaomi SU7 car worth buying? After watching this video, you will be able to understand what those major car manufacturers at Xiaomi SU7's launch event were thinking. First of all, let's start with the power battery. It's the core of any EV and what experts are most concerned about. It also constitutes the bulk of the cost of building an EV. Xiaomi uses lithium iron phosphate batteries in its main model. Although it tries to hide the source of this battery on its webpage, it isn't difficult to find out that this battery is manufactured by BYD. According to this blogger, the Xiaomi SU7 targets the low-end version of the Tesla Model 3. The Tesla Model 3 is equipped with lithium iron phosphate batteries produced by CATL, which is more stable, has better thermal management, and is safer. The disadvantage is that the price is much higher than similar batteries made by other companies. That is to say, the Xiaomi SU7 saves a lot of money when it comes to the cost of the power battery. In addition, he also mentioned that Xiaomi cut corners in terms of high-voltage platforms, motor charging stations, and smart driving. He called Lei Juan a marketing genius or even a devilish genius. Xiaomi's experience reflects China's EV development. Many of the CCP's economic policies are disastrous, leaving serious consequences such as the Three Gorges Dam project and the Chang'an New Area. But the policy to promote EVs seems to have resulted in what appears on the surface to be a very successful EV industry in China. China began heavily subsidizing EVs in 2009, a policy that lasted 13 years. Officially, the total amount of central government subsidies for EVs over the 13-year period amounted to 150 billion yuan, or more than 20 billion. In addition, there were also subsidies from local governments in terms of funding, taxation, land use, etc., and the amount of subsidies wasn't less than the central government's. In other words, by 2022, the central government had subsidized EVs with a total of 150 billion yuan, or more than US 20 billion. In other words, for every EV produced in China before 2022, enterprises received up to 120,000 yuan, or 17,000 in subsidies from the government. These are shocking figures. The staggering amount of subsidies has led to an influx of Chinese companies scrambling to make EVs. The Chinese government wasn't fooled, and it knew that it had been cheated out of many subsidies. Even so, the CCP was determined to build EVs. Its subsidy policy has stimulated the rapid expansion of the supply chain and many related industries. These subsidies were given to enterprises, so more than 200 EV manufacturers have emerged in China in the past decade, competing fiercely with each other and lowering prices again and again. Car companies that can survive in this environment will still be very competitive internationally. With subsidies alone, it would still be difficult for China's auto industry to reach a high level. Another major contributing factor here is Tesla. In 2019, when Tesla opened a factory in Shanghai, it used all kinds of parts from China. And more than 95% of the parts in Tesla's factory in China were locally made. Tesla had its standards and required all its suppliers to produce according to its standards. It rapidly improved the overall level of China's EV industry, so it can be said that Tesla has played an important role in China's EV industry. However, there are serious problems with the actual quality of Chinese EVs. Plagiarism in appearance isn't the worst. The most serious problem is the quality of the batteries. We've shown in previous episodes that BYD and other Chinese EV brands have had frequent problems with spontaneous combustion. According to data from China's Emergency Management Department, in the first quarter of 2023, an average of 8 EVs burned every day across the country. This should still be an officially redacted figure. The safety of battery vehicles is like a mission impossible for Chinese EV manufacturers. Because even companies like Tesla can't solve battery safety problems, they rely on safety precautions to manage it. It uses advanced technology to monitor the battery. Once it finds a problem with the battery, it will lock the car and the driver won't be able to drive it. The car can only be driven after the battery is repaired, thus reducing the rate of combustion accidents. However, China doesn't use this monitoring technology, so the burning rate becomes very high. China's EV exports are massive. BYD's global sales, for example, have exceeded that of Tesla. But China's EVs lack the core ability to solidify its global share. They still rely on government subsidies to do low-price dumping. The future of China's EV industry is tough to sustain because China doesn't have good chips. One of the key technologies for EVs is the battery, and the other is the chip. The speed of the Chinese chip isn't comparable to that of Tesla. China can't solve the battery problem either. Solid-state battery research and development requires years of development. Since 2019, China has entered a stage of massive production and export of EVs. The normal battery life is between 8 and 12 years, so the batch of EVs made in 2019 will be scrapped in a few years. China is expecting a large pile of garbage from scrapped EVs in the coming years. China is now gearing up to produce more EVs. The problem is that the more it produces, the more garbage it will have. The Chinese government is likely having no idea what to do with it. One of the most important features of EVs is the integration of computer technology. The key to future competition is the extent to which relevant information industry technologies can be integrated into EVs, the most critical being fully automated driving. Fully automatic driving relies on AI technology and satellite navigation. China is doing its best to catch up with these two technologies. The US is still in the lead in these two technologies, but the competition is fierce. Now we see that the US and the West have begun to block the CCP on all fronts, so China's continued development of EVs will be greatly hindered. US President Joe Biden has already said that China won't be allowed to drive a computer on the streets of the US. Therefore, in the next 5 years, China's EVs may have great development, but further down the road, it won't have sufficient momentum. Europe and the US have now clearly recognized the Chinese government's subsidizing of the EV industry. Both the EU and the US have expressed a strong stance against China's EV dumping. They are looking for ways to limit the export of EVs from China. On May 10, 2024, multiple media outlets including Bloomberg and the New York Times cited sources familiar with the matter as saying that Biden is preparing to impose tariffs on Chinese EVs next week, and that the tariffs on EVs will be increased threefold from 25% to 100%. This would be the biggest move in the Biden administration's trade policy toward China to date. So far, the Wall Street Journal says the current tariff, 25% on China's EVs, will have effectively prevented these cheaper-than-Western-made vehicles from entering the US market. But Biden administration officials, automakers, and some lawmakers are concerned that the current policy isn't enough, given the size of China's manufacturing sector. Although Porsche hasn't filed a lawsuit against Xiaomi for copyright infringement, China's massive EV industry is having a tough time. Their fear lies in the punitive tariffs from the West. That's what they're really worried about. Unfortunately, it's a trend that's coming together faster than the Beijing government has anticipated.